There have been even the likes of Colin Powell have given a thumbs up to helping a country like Uzbekistan, which had a terrible dictator, so that that might help them in the war against Afghanistan. What is that line? It says there are no common friends, only mutual interests, or there is some line, isn't it? So is that how it comes down to all the time?
Democratic leaders go on TV. They say that they're primarily interested in democracy. But when it comes to actually making these decisions, then democracy is really usually not enough in order to motivate an outside intervention. Because what we have to remember is that oftentimes these outside interventions are incredibly costly, both in terms of blood and also treasure. So if you're a democratic leader trying to justify to your people that you're going to go to war and you have these young men and women coming back in coffins because they get shot, you need a very, very good reason. And usually the only thing that's good enough as a reason is national security. So that's why these leaders might say that they will intervene somewhere because they want to promote democracy. But usually the real argument is somehow related to national security.
Right. So in other words, these presidents of democratic institutions in the West, for example, the American one, with this example of supporting, going to Uzbekistan and turning a blind eye to some of those atrocities, because it also helps the dictator that he now has a negotiating power with America, because he's lent some of his airstrips there so that, it's in America's interest to bomb Afghanistan. Now, this is geopolitics, is there? I mean, how does the pitch by the president, in this case of America, to his audience, to his country will be, all right, for now your lives are at risk if we don't do this, so for a moment let's forget Uzbekistan, lives in Uzbekistan. Is that how it works?
Yes. I think democratic leaders tend to make the assumption that they can't level with their voters. You can't stand up and say, look, really what happens in Uzbekistan is not all that important to us. But, these people in Afghanistan could be a serious threat. So we're going to ignore what happens in Afghanistan and we're just going to use those airfields in order to advance our interests in Afghanistan. It doesn't work like that. So you have to come up with something. And that's why a lot of times they do talk about democracy. But I would also add, that for all the cynicism and for all the bad in the world, even though these democracies are imperfect, they're still our best hope. And that's also part of the reason why people, when they do strive for freedom and they do strive democracy, these are the actors that they appeal to. So, the Europeans, the Americans, the Australians, they pursue their interests. They will lie about what they do, but there's a reason why freedom-loving people everywhere still try to appeal to them as opposed to the Russians or the Chinese. Right? So, yes, they're not perfect, but they're the least bad we have.